Chapter 1. The Trauma. Everyone has their endings, but not the same as yours. People keep secrets, keep away things uncommonly, a perspective to be found. My story isn't what you imagine, believe, or tell. It's way more chaotic. The last I remember were more conflictive, but more traumatic. I think I had a brother, two, and a sister. Their names were Michael, Evan, and Elizabeth. I had parents, though I don't think they got along well. My sister would be the spoiled one, while my brother, Michael, would pick on his siblings. Sometimes me as well. Evan, I find him weird. I realized he'd have almost like tear marks underneath his eyes or some bags. My brother said it was part of puberty, so I believed him. Sometimes when my dad was working on some mechanics, he'd keep me by the corner because of my safety. My dad won't be so social at home because of work. Somehow, Mom got mad about it. I guess she knows Dad more than me. I either stay inside my room or lay on the floor in my brother's room, while hearing yelling, maybe some screaming too. Sometimes I hear crying and a sort of pop noise, though I never knew what it meant ever since birth. I'd sometimes hear my little brother screaming, or maybe crying. I wish I knew what it meant. A few years later, my parents got divorced. My mom just left. Just like that. No hug or goodbye. And I never heard from her again. As time passed, my father looked more like Evan, except more mysterious and more different. He sometimes would either come home late or not come home at all, for a couple of days at least. Meaning my brother would pick on Evan more, as Elizabeth would tell him to surrender, but be avoided. One day, when my brother would pick on Evan, I'd hear the same pop sound, but a bit as in a punch. Then I suddenly snapped. I don't know why, but I charged at him, so willingly wanting to punch him. My dad then came in the room with an object or tool in his hand, and it went black. Nothing but darkness. When I saw some color, I could only see half. The other half was red. I saw Michael in tears as he would hug me. I was either in my room or his room. I couldn't tell. As time passed, Michael grew softer to every time Dad made his flaws on me. Elizabeth would look at Dad as if she were his favorite child. Spoiled, crazy, and mostly stupid. Evan's birthday was coming up in less than a week, though I think he grew more depressed than usual. Dad would nowadays come here with some sort of object with a sharp end at the tip. I stared as he would give me a snarled look, then walk away. When Evan's birthday came up, Dad wanted me to watch the house when he, Michael, Elizabeth, and Evan were away to the sort of pizzeria. While they were gone, I felt sad. I felt like something bad would happen during that party. Then again, I never knew what or how it was. After about 2 hours, I was either just sitting in the middle of my room or either napping. My family came back home, but the opposite from earlier. I heard yelling and crying, like how my parents argued, though it was more different. I heard a door slam there. I was surely worried. I then heard footsteps, loud, thumpy footsteps, coming to my door. I came to my bed, hiding under the sheets as the door slammed open. I was frightened, scared. I thought that it would happen again. No. I felt wet spots hitting on the blankets. I moved the sheets down, and I saw Michael, crying. He then hugged me tightly. Of course, I had no idea what happened, though I went along with it. After that, I was cuddling with Michael. Still, hadn't said a thing about what happened, but I was certain that it was very miserable. After that day, Evan's room was empty, nothing but walls. I decided to go to my dad's office or room, but there was a sign of "Do Not Disturb." I then went to Elizabeth's room to see what was going on, but she didn't answer. But she had his look, fear, and suppression. When I went to Michael's room, he accidentally punched my limb. Even though it hurts, I still stood. My brother yelled at me, but I didn't listen. He then hugged me, but I didn't react, other than confusion. I was kept a promise that day, but I really don't think it is no more. As years passed, my father became a businessman. He really was a manager, though I think that's the same thing. During those years, Dad gave me more of his flaws and pain. Then, I was welcomed to my brother's group. Least, that's what he said. My sister was drawing something that she didn't want us to see, except for Dad, of course. Me and the group of Michael's friends went to do some teenager adult things, though I couldn't help but moan of boredom. I was the type of kid to be so social, since my dad always kept us inside the house nowadays, but I'm sure it's normal. A couple months later, I would hear my sister scream in enjoyment, so I went to check what was since I was curious. When I entered my sister's room, she just pushed me out, then locked it from the inside. I was inferring that she was just playing with her dolls or something, at least. One day, when my father came into the room, he told me to come in the living room, in a harsh way, of course. When we arrived to the room, so did my two siblings. My dad pulled up 2 tickets, one for each of us. Then he told us to get in the car, with my sister completely excited, then my brother just not getting it still. When we arrived at the pizzeria, it was a huge, wide place, and a big sign that said Sister Location Pizzeria. I was confused, not wanting to be here. So was Michael. But I left my sister very excited and completely out of joy. I missed that face from her. Anyways, we went inside and got registered. But the workers all had purple eyes. At least only half of them. When we got inside, we headed to the hallways, walking, while Elizabeth would be talking during those minutes. I kept holding Michael's arm, almost like we were a couple. When we arrived to the room, there was a huge figure of a red-haired robot singing. There would be children around the stage she was on. My father would introduce us to her like he was pretending his personality. He had invented her, made her make ice cream and balloons. Her name was Circus Baby, an animatronic made for Elizabeth, but told not to go near her. I remember my sister whining, but I'm sure you know why. Michael didn't have a comfortable look. I tried to let him share his feelings with me, but he kindly declined with a warm smile. We were then introduced to other animatronics, Ballora, Funtime Foxy, and Funtime Freddy. My favorite would probably be Ballora, since she reminded me so much of my mom. She used to love dancing. I would sometimes catch Mom and Dad dancing. More specifically, slow dancing. I think he missed her. While we were walking, Elizabeth was gone. She probably wandered off, but then again, I understand. As a couple hours flew by, we haven't heard from Elizabeth. My dad decided to give us free access to pizza and ran off to find her. I looked at my brother. He was already in tears. I was confused and concerned. When I tapped his shoulder, he hugged me. He then said that Dad was a killer, but I couldn't understand a thing he was saying, due to the fact that I was fully antisocial. But I hugged back. He probably saw something in Circus Baby's room since I asked him about it. He stared at me. Then, all of a sudden, there was screaming and noise. My dad ran in the room and dragged us, and as other people ran out as well. We didn't see what was going on. All we knew was that there was something happening. I wonder where Elizabeth was. When a few days passed, they were filled with trauma, arguing, abuse, and depression. My father would come home with a knife filled with blood. Michael would argue with him every day. When I walked to Michael's room, Michael would have knife marks on his face, maybe on other parts too. I'd usually be the person to get comforted. Guess the roles had been switched. One day was the day we got family photos. Also that day that everything went wrong. When I was getting ready, my dad came in and watched me change. Then I heard some noises from his phone. Then he walked out of the room. I still didn't know what it meant. At least, for now. When I was ready for the photo, Michael clinged on to me behind, saying how scared he was for losing me. I didn't mind for the fact he was, but I was still confused and concerned. We then walked outside for the family photo, as Dad set the phone away inside his pocket, waiting for us to come over. Michael didn't seem so comfortable, but he went along with it. After we took the family photo, I then walked around the backyard. I found something very suspiciously unnormal. I found some tools inside the shed. Not just garden tools, but corpses of dead children. I only had my normal reaction, but I was shocked. I couldn't move a single inch. Then I was randomly grabbed easily by a person with a white suit on. I screamed out for help, but no one could respond, except for Michael, and his charge at me, with fear and anger on his eyes. Another came up from behind and held him back, as Michael would have tears in his eyes while screaming out for my name. I had tears in my eyes, screaming for them to help me, but just after that, I randomly began to see darkness, and then it became full. End of chapter 1. Elizabeth will look at that as if she was... I completely missed the spot. My family came back home. Dad will nowadays come here. That says home. Some sites oh wait, that's the other line. Dad will nowadays come home with some sauce. I sometimes hear my little brother crying, Friday, when Evan's birthday came up, Dad wanted me to everyone had their endings. That wasn't the line. When my brother would pick on Evan, I hear the same pop sound. Will nowadays come here with some sort of object with a sharp end at the tip. I'd stare as he would give it. I can't speak today. I'd either stay inside my room or lay on the floor in my brother's room while hearing yelling, maybe some screaming then. This is 2. My family came back home, but the opposite from earlier. I heard yelling and crying, like how my parents argued, though it was more different. I heard a door slam there. I was surely worried. I can't even say it. I heard a door slam there. I was surely worried. Oh my God. I felt like something bad would happen during the party that. She just left. Just like that. No hug or goodbye. And I never heard from her ever again. That sounded really creepy. As time passed, Michael grew. Right? Yeah. Ugh. I wasn't. Oh my God. He then hugged me tightly. Of course, I had no idea what happened. Though, fuck. He then hugged me tightly. Of course, I had no idea what's happening. Though, that's not what it said. My brother yelled at me, but I didn't listen. He then hugged me, but I didn't react, other than confusion. I was kept a promise that day, but I really didn't think.